Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and let me start by saying that my heart goes out to the families and loved ones of the victims lost in the American Airlines Flight 5342 disaster at DCA, and not long after that, unfortunately, as well, the Bering Air crash in near Unalakleet and Nome, Alaska, flying over the Norton Sound area. And I'm thankful for the chairman for holding this hearing and appreciate the NTSB and FAA and DOD focusing on the after action so this doesn't happen again, either here in DC or in my state. And I do want to focus a little bit on my state, great state of Alaska, because as I think all three of you know, we have very high rates of airplane crashes, highest in the country, and airplane crash fatalities, which is why we launched with the NTSB's good work in 2020 and the FAA's good work in 2020, the FAA Alaska Safety Initiative called FOSI. And in last year's FAA reauthorization, I was able to include a number of provisions with the goal of reducing the rate of fatal aircraft accidents by 90%. That's a very ambitious goal. And require the FAA to improve maintenance of weather equipment. So, Mr. Administrator, I want to get into that topic a little bit. I was just home. It came up a lot, how there might be cancellations of weather operations and infrastructure and reporting, which makes zero sense to me. I hope our federal government is not doing that. But one of the things in the FAA bill, I was able to include requirements for systematic improvements to the maintenance of our weather systems and advancing new technologies. And this includes a mandate for the FAA to take necessary actions to restore full connectivity of weather systems that are unable to disseminate information due to a telecommunications failure. We have telecommunications challenges in a state the size of mine. So can you talk to that, Administrator Reschel, and then I would like to get an update from your perspective on where we are on the FOSI initiative. As you know, the Secretary of Transportation and our press conference that we all did together, and again, I appreciate everybody participating in that, has made this a very top priority of his. And yet, as we saw in Alaska, we had a fatal crash that, hopefully we're going to learn from. Can I ask you on that, on the data link, telecoms, weather reporting, which is a big deal for my state?
Yes, sir, I appreciate that. And I appreciate the opportunity to talk a little bit more based on our previous conversation. Your leadership, as a result of that and your request, I did travel recently to Alaska to go and understand more. I met with the NTSB lead investigator along with my investigators as it related to the Bering Air tragedy.
By the way, thank you both for coming up to Alaska. I know it's not the easiest, closest state to get to from Washington, D.C., but it's important that you're showing my constituents that it matters.
Yes, sir, and I agree. It's very important. I understand, having been there a number of times, the unique nature of Alaska, certainly its topography, as well as the need for safe aviation operations. So related to, again, reauthorization and the commitment to work to have better communications throughout Alaska, one of the initiatives, one of the reasons I went to Anchorage was to understand more about how the maintenance issues, the connectivity issues, whether that's on the telco side or satellite. And one of the things we're doing right now, and I met with our own technical operations people in the area to test Starlink, so satellite, because of the unique nature of it and the difficulty with telco. We needed another solution.
Yeah. And
one of the ways we believe we can do that is using satellite-based technology. And so that's what we're experimenting with right now.
Well, by the way, I really appreciate, the press here kind of went crazy and, Starlink and, that's actually really helpful for us. And we appreciate the secretary called me and said, hey, we're going to connect some of these terminals through Starlink because that's the most effective way to do it. So I appreciate it. I appreciated that you guys were working it. Can you give me an update, or Madam Chair, an update on the FOSI initiative, and then any preliminary findings you're seeing from the NTSB preliminary report on the Bering Air crash?
Senator Sullivan, this needs to be your last question.
It is, Mr. Chairman.
We are still working on that investigation, of course. The preliminary report was issued and did find that the aircraft was over 1,000 pounds overweight, but we also are going to look at the center of gravity on that airplane and see how that factored in. And then we are really focused in on weather that day as well. As you noted, weather infrastructure is critical for Alaska, and we have a number of recommendations on weather observing stations and also the importance of pilot reports and having air traffic control when a pilot reports weather conditions to pass that information along to other pilots in the area, and that's something we're looking at as part of this investigation in particular.
Great. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.